5th, 2019 meeting of Pequannock Township Council. Ms. Marsh.
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks for individuals serving our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding, so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
Amen. Clerk will please call the roll.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Here.
Mr. Hurd?
Here.
Mr. Phelan? Here. Mrs. Russell? Here. Mayor Cole?
Here.
We have a quorum.
We're all here. Next on the agenda is presentations, and there are none scheduled for this evening. Oh, I'm sorry. We have Mr. From H2M, Eric is here at the line.
I'm Eric Hopsel. My name is Eric DeLine. I'm a planner with H2M Associates. We're an engineering and architecture firm. I'm also the project manager for the Pequannock Township Master Plan. So as we're developing this master plan, one of the things that we said we were going to do was provide an update to the council on the, where things stand on the master plan as we're going forward. So that's what I'm going to do here tonight. So move on to the first slide. Overall, the scope of work is
You break it.
You're electrified.
There you go. Don't touch.
okay.
Wait a minute, Frank, what do you
Maybe if I
need?
don't speak.
What do you think it is?
Frank, what do you need? Light?
We're a well-oiled machine here in
There we
Pequannock.
go.
There's the lights that we're doing.
So again, this is the development of a new master plan. The last time it was created was 1995, basically 25 years ago, essentially. As we all know, people live quite differently in the last 25 years. They've changed how they shop, how they travel, everything like that. And there is a need for municipalities to sort of update their master plans to sort of reflect those new realities and hopefully plan for the future as they see it. It was re-examined in 2009. State law now requires that a municipality either re-examine or develop a new master plan at least every 10 years. So we are at that 10-year point, and that's what the purpose of this project is. In addition to the development of the master plan, we're undertaking a public engagement process, which is coming in the form of 3 different public outreach meetings or events, and I'll go through those a little bit in a minute, and then also a project webpage where a survey that we are using to get sort of public input from residents, from business owners, and from other stakeholders that sort of visit Pequannock Township on a daily basis. So these are the general master plan elements. A number of them, which have been noted in an asterisk, are required elements of a master plan. So anytime you do a new master plan, at the very least, you do have to have a set of goals and objectives. You do have to have a land use element. And then at the bottom in red, you have to have a housing element. The housing element is required when you have the intention of updating your zoning code. So if you don't plan on updating your zoning code, you don't necessarily have to update your housing element, but with the idea that you would do a master plan, typically you want to follow on and update that zoning code to reflect all these things that you've identified as things that need to change. I have noted the housing element in red because my company is not developing the housing element. That's being done sort of as an outside effort, but we are going to be integrating that housing element into the master plan itself. So it's going to be all part of one document. The other elements that we'll be working on are the circulation element or transportation preservation element, economic development, open space, historic preservation, community facilities, utilities, recycling, and sustainability element. So all of these elements are going to be sort of brought into one cohesive document as the master plan, and then the idea that we would adopt this element adopt this plan at the end of this year.
Eric, can I interrupt for you
Yes.
for a minute? I was just gonna, this is just, I'm kind of throwing this out to the council. I was just curious to know, did we know that you were going to come here to present tonight? Because I think this would have been a great thing to put on as a presentation for those that wanted to come. I know it's really just an update to the council, but...
It was an oversight in the agenda.
Okay.
It was scheduled, but it was an oversight, didn't get put on.
Okay, I just asked.
What we can certainly do is we can take this presentation and we can put it
Great.
up on our public input page, so if anybody doesn't get a chance to see it, they'll at
Good.
least
I
be able to view
appreciate
it
it.
there.
Thank you.
We can do the video.
Yeah, they can do the video,
Thanks, video.
too.
Well, that too, yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
So where the planning process currently starts, we have completed a plan introduction. We've done the demographic analysis. Again, what has changed over the last 25 years in terms of population, how people travel, economic, socioeconomic data, things like that, and then relationship to other plans. So anytime you do a master plan, you're also required to take a look at what other municipalities surrounding you are planning at your edges and determine if there's some consistency. So we're taking a look at, basically across the river into Pompton Lakes, how those two zones are consistent with each other. Do they have something in their planning documents that will possibly affect the master plan as it relates to Pequannock? So that's what that relationship to other plans are. There's also the requirement to look at the county plan, and then the state plan, and then some other regional plans like the NJTPA Regional Transportation Plan and things like that. We've got the project webpage and survey established. That's been live since about February. I'll talk a little bit about where the survey stands on a number of items. We did a community workshop back on May 1st. I think a number of people here attended. We had a good turnout, and I'll talk a little bit about that. The draft for the historic preservation element and the recycling element are functionally complete. It's going in front of the steering committee for their review. Ultimately, what we're trying to do through this process is hand off pieces of the plan as they're completed as the elements. So when we turn over the whole document to the steering committee and then ultimately the planning board, it's not, for a lot of them, some of the information, at least it's not the first time seeing it. One thing to keep in mind, although obviously it's very important for the council to know what's in the master plan, to have a voice into the master plan, it is considered the planning board's document. They're the ones who adopt the master plan on behalf of the township, and then ultimately, especially for the land use pieces, they're responsible for implementing that piece of the master plan. Again, we've started all other elements, and then we've met with a bunch of other committees, and we're continuing to meet with a bunch of committees. Just in terms of what we found so far in the demographics, again, you can look at the census data. This is American Community Survey from 2017, estimates 15,500 residents. That's an estimate, because what they do is they basically take the 2010 every 10-year census, and they sort of project out a projection growth or a projection population decline based on that. Again, the NJTPA does their own population forecast out. They typically have a 25-year planning horizon. They look out to 2040, and then the population for the township is expected to grow to 16,200. Now, again, that gets revised. We're about a year away from the next census, so next year you'll have a better sense on where things are going, and then people will sort of revise again based on all these different population projections. The median age, actually almost half of the residents are ages over the age of 53, and the median age of the township is 48.2 years of age. That's quite a few years higher than actually the county median, but there is a little bit of explanation behind that. Almost 2,000 residents of that 15,500 live in either Hurl Village or Cedar Crest, and that really bumps up that median age as a result. So again, half of those residents are above 48.2 and half of those residents are below. It's not quite the story that it shows when the first time you're looking at it, but in general, Morris County, North Jersey, these kind of areas tend to be aging populations, where the younger populations right now are concentrated in places like Hudson County and Essex County and things like that, although again, we're starting to see a shift as some of the millennials and sort of mature a little bit too. They're starting to moving out into the suburbs and everything. It's a well-educated community. Most people own their homes. A lot of people make good money in terms of the household income, and people tend to drive. There's not a whole lot of public transportation out here, although I think in terms of public transportation usage, out of the 39 Morris County municipalities, 6% or so actually use public transportation. That's actually 11th in the countywide in terms of ranking. So people either catch the bus, the 197 bus, or they might drive to one of the transit, the train stations and commute into the city as a result. Again, this is the project webpage. We set up our webpage, publicinput.com/Pequannock. The idea was to keep people up to date on the master plan, give them other plans to review, some of the documents that we're integrating into the plan. Some of these plans that we're taking a look at as we're developing it, some of it's an update because such good work has been done in the past. We're not just starting from scratch. We're saying, well, this is good. What's changed since then, the last time we did this plan, and how can we build off of it for the future? And then again, we have the survey, and I'm about to go over the survey results. So one of the questions that we wanted to find out from the residents was what are the issues or trends that you're noticing in Pequannock Township? What interests you? What concerns you? Those kind of things. Basically, and we asked sort of in a matrix format, asking people most important to least important or not important at all. And what people identified is sort of either their most important issue or an important issue. Tied for number one now was environmental quality and protection, and then 2 was condition of the parks and recreational facilities. So people are very interested in those kind of things. No surprise that those kind of things do end up on the higher end of concern for Pequannock Township residents. And then 3rd was bicycle and pedestrian safety, and then some of the work that's going on in the bike ped realm in the NYSNW, so that dovetails with what people are interested in doing. And again, people are starting to travel a little bit differently now too. Millennials and I-generation, that's Generation Z, are getting their driver license later on in life, and they're using other modes for their shorter trips and things like that, and they are becoming more interested in walkable communities and being able to bicycle places and things like that. Forest flooding in residential neighborhood, I think that dovetails nicely to the environmental quality and protection aspect of things, and then the condition of the downtown, which we heard quite a bit. When we asked people about how they felt about new development, again, sort of a precursor towards, some of these zones could be changing. We could be looking at new ways to revitalize, redevelop, those kind of things. We asked people how they felt about new development. 60% said either very favorably or favorably, so a decent percentage above. There was also 15% that were neutral or had no opinion to that question. Really, only 4% felt new development, looked at it from a very unfavorable standpoint. So again, some of the other questions I'll go over. People are interested in development. They're generally in favor of it, but there are some concerns, which the next question gets to. And that's benefits and concerns of new development. So we asked what you thought the top benefits were. More economic activity, support for local businesses. Again, a lot of what we heard was really the 2 main local commercial districts need work. They need some revitalization. Sort of what people are looking at for downtowns, these new downtowns. So the old downtowns are becoming the new downtowns again, and then improve aesthetics. So if something needs a little bit of fresh coat of paint, these are the way that they're looking at doing it. In terms of top concerns, traffic is number 1 at 59%. No surprise, people could get concerned, well, if you bring new development, that brings new cars in, things like that. And then maintaining the township character. And that goes back to the point of development, being in context with the community that exists today. People like Pequannock Township. They like to live here. They moved here for a reason. They don't want to see it change too much. They're open to new development. They understand that things do change. But again, it has to be sort of in context with the township character. Next slide. So when we asked what people desired in terms of new uses, number 1 was restaurants, followed by microbreweries and distilleries, community gathering spaces, retail stores, and entertainment establishments. So one of the things I noticed is 4 out of those 5 things are really where people are looking to to be social with other people. It's not just, I'm going to run into the store and grab something, or, I want to do my taxes here. People are looking to be entertained. They want lively, vibrant spaces. And again, it goes back into thinking about these two downtown locations in a new way, adding sort of new activity, whether it's residential, what kinds of uses are permitted. Those are kind of things that we're hearing through the survey and what we heard through the community workshops. Next slide. When we asked about what the open space flood mitigation priorities are, this will end up being the result. So this was a ranking question, so it's a little bit different in terms of choosing everything that you think should be done. This is sort of like, well, what are the things that the township should be really concentrating on? The infrastructure and maintenance ended up being number one with the average rank of 2.58. Again, they were pretty close to each other. Land acquisitions, number two. Shoal River obstruction and removal, number three, followed by the wetlands, natural habitat restoration, so the lands that you've already preserved, starting to do some things that sort of buffer that flood, the flood waters and everything like that from the existing residential and commercial properties, and then home elevations being number five. Next slide. So, in addition to the survey, we held a community workshop. We had 65 people attend, which was actually a really strong turnout for that day, and we got a lot of great feedback. What we did was we organized into topic tables. So rather than me talking at the audience the way I'm talking at all of you for an hour or so, I won't be an hour, I promise. What we did was we gave an opportunity for the residents to approach us, talk about their issues. We had maps out, we had flip charts, and we were taking comments like crazy. Anything that anybody had to say, we wanted to make sure we recorded it, because those are the kind of things that we wanted to, people showed up, and they wanted to be heard, and by writing that down, we wanted to make sure that they understood that we were listening to them, and it was a one-on-one conversation, a one-on-few conversation, and we were able to take that information back, see how it dovetails to what we're seeing through the planning process and what we're hearing from the survey. So we broke out 4 tables, land use and economic development being one, transportation and utilities being the other, community facilities, parks, and historic preservation being the third, and then doing a sustainability, environment, and recycling table. Next slide. So generally what we heard real quick, again, a lot of the things that I pointed out earlier, both downtowns need some revitalization and redevelopment. There is I think a perception of need for more parking. Some of that might be addressed through the redevelopment or understanding where parking is generally available for people. I think people are looking at sort of the on-street parking as the only available parking. There are other ways to address parking issues through shared parking agreements and those kind of things that get to that parking without always having to add additional surface parking that you may or may not need. Wanting to see more density in mixed-use development, again, that tends to be the trend in new development, how downtowns are sort of revitalizing their areas and taking that on. Jane Jacobs, who's sort of a famous planner, had this saying, it's not enough to bring people downtown, you have to put them there. So what people or communities are doing is adding residential, adding that walking wallet that just have to walk downstairs, they're walking to the restaurant, they're walking to the store, they're spending their money, and it's all within walking distance rather than always separating the uses like we've typically done. That's okay. They want to see connections of the NYSNW bike path to downtowns. That's an easy solution because they basically run right next to them, which is great for downtowns and recreation and the combination of the two. There is a desire for more housing choices, entry-level housing. That's, again, where we get into sort of that mixed use that either step back from, being a baby boomer looking to downsize from their home, becoming an empty nester, or you want to break into Pequannock Township because you see what a great community it is, but you may not have that down payment for that single-family house that tends to be predominant in this community. And then the need to look at permitted uses in the commercial zones. And that goes back to the question that I talked about earlier about what are the kind of uses people are looking at. Next slide. So long-term schedule, right now we're meeting with a lot of the committees and departments this summer. We're giving an opportunity to say, this is what we're doing. We want to hear from you because, again, what the committees are doing aren't always reflected in the old master plans, so it becomes necessary to really talk to them, understand what are the things that they're doing now, so we make sure we formalize that into the master plan and understand what they want to accomplish. So again, we can put that into the master plan, get those kind of actions formalized and make them eligible eligible for grant. It sort of says, this is definitely what we want to do. It gives them some ownership in this planning document. So that's what we're doing through the rest of the summer. We plan on having initial draft goals and objectives and some recommendations by the end of August. That will be going to the steering committee for their first perusal. We're going to be getting out to all the different stakeholders and things like that. And then that's going to be a lot of what we're doing through the public outreach process too. On the second half of things is getting the public reaction to sort of what are some of the items that we're developing. We plan on being at the Family Hoedown on Saturday, September 14th. Again, talking to the audience, talking to the residents, getting some feedback, making it interactive, and then completing the draft elements for the steering committee review by the end of September. So it's going to be a Word document in the beginning. The idea is just to have them review the content, give us feedback, us make edits, and then as we're getting that information back, or even as we're reviewing it, we're going to be formatting this document to make it sort of more visually appealing, easier to read. It's not just going to be one long Word document that somebody's got to basically puts it next to a nightstand so they can fall asleep at night or anything like that. So that's the idea. By the end of October is have that draft document, and then getting a third public meeting, getting them presenting the document, getting some reactions, making some additional edits if we feel like that there was something major we missed, and then getting it to the planning board for the hearing. We actually just met earlier. We're talking about doing the first hearing for adoption in early November. That gives us a little bit of a buffer before the end of the year to sort of say, allowing the planning board to review the document, comment on the document, and us taking it back. And if we have to make additional revisions, not quite ready for adoption, then we can take it back and still be well ahead of 2020. So that's basically where we stand on things. Things are going well. We're excited. We're getting a lot of good feedback from the survey, from the committees that we've met, from the steering committee that we've met today. So I can address any questions or comments from the council or anything like that. But thank you.
Any questions?
We asked all ours before.
All right, thank you, Mr. Deline. My apologies for not recognizing you in the beginning there, so wasn't in my script.
Thank you. Lights.
Camera.
Action.
All right, next on the agenda is reports from volunteers. At this time, are there any reports or comments from any of our volunteers serving our community? Louise.
What the hey, I'll kill three stones to one bird. Anyway, Louise Marchese, a member of EDC, so I thought I'd get my opinions in. I recently met someone who's very successful in commercial realty in Florida. Not that should make any difference. And he said to me, if you want a developer to come in, there is one and only way to do it, and that's tax incentives. I'm just letting you know what someone said, someone who's successful. As far as music, definitely there's a need for more entertainment. If anyone ever goes down to Legion 242 and they have music, they pack the place. So we could definitely have something like that, another restaurant, a small restaurant, maybe just a grill, someplace simple like that. But I think that would definitely go over. Now, as far as parking, I live on the Pequannock end of town, and I know I hear a lot of people complain about the parking. I'm not seeing it. I don't park in the back. I park on the street. And since you added the spaces by the heating and cooling place on the other side of the tracks, you added a bunch of new spaces that people never realized were there. I mean, I pass by there 12 times a day, and there always seems to be available parking. So I don't think that should really be a big deterrent right now in our future plans. And I guess that's about it. Thank you for listening to my opinion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Definitely public comment.
Any other volunteers? No? We'll move right along then. Next is public comment. The next item on the agenda is public comment. This public comment period will be limited to a total of 30 minutes. An additional period for public comment is reserved for later in the meeting. Individuals are requested to limit their questions and comments to 3 minutes. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized. Come to the microphone and provide your name and address for the record. Mrs. Vanderhoff.
Jan Vanderhoff, 193 Mountain Ave. I'm going to talk about replacing our dog park. which everybody is familiar with. I went to the Parks and Rec office, and in 2018, we sold 125 tags, 34 of which were out-of-town people. But I'm sure there's more people that use the dog park than tags were sold. I've been looking at various spots to put a replacement. Greenview, if you're looking at the tennis courts, to the right of the tennis courts before the water tank, seems to be about our best bet. I talked to Adam this morning, I've talked to Pete Coriel a few times, I've touched base with Frank for the Open Space Committee. I've asked people that I know, do you know of anywhere? DPW guys I've asked, and I don't know what you guys think about that idea.
Good idea.
Greenview, it has parking, it has a water hydrant right in front of it. Needs to be cleared. Figured, a scout project, a Girl Scout built our last one. So we're not asking for a lot of money from the town.
That's an interesting question. So,
We do have,
Adam, two questions. Number one, we do have a water tower there that's coming down eventually, correct?
Correct.
yeah.
And number two, with that area, is this a permitted use? Is that wetlands over there?
I think, just speaking generally, I appreciate, I had the opportunity to chat with Mrs. Vanderhoff this morning. I think it's a good suggestion. I've had a number of conversations with people one-on-one. I've talked to other patrons of the dog park. But to your questions, I just think we have to vet it.
Right, yeah.
So we got to kick around with staff, talk to planning, engineering, see what would be involved. One of the things I noted when I spoke to Mrs. Vanderhoff earlier, and I've said to some others, is the past park was kind of off the beaten path. I've seen dog parks in larger parks that have other amenities, ball fields, playgrounds, etc., and I've seen other towns that have them also off the beaten path. I think the needs and the setup of it are a little different depending upon how you do it. For those individuals that drove past the one that is now a lake, a lot of times the dogs were off leash and they were in the vicinity. If you have a planned park, that's a dynamic that wouldn't work. So, what space then do you need? Do you potentially need more space or less space? And these are the things I don't want to make a mistake on, but I appreciate the comment. I think, and my comment to Mrs. Vanderhoff this morning was, absent of that, I can't think of anything right now either. But I would just want to kick around and make sure we would do it the right way and avoid any pitfalls.
Yeah, the location seems like it could work. I know there were some other locations kicked around, and I'm trying to remember, why did we think by the shelter was no good?
Where by the shelter would it be?
I don't know, that's why I'm asking. I know,
I think there's area like behind the shelter.
I was just curious.
The area behind the shelter is the DPW yard that they
Right.
use for operations. The challenge with Washington is, based upon the volume of people that come to watch games and play at
Gotcha,
place,
it could get
there's not a
busy.
lot, there's
Right,
just not a lot.
where you don't really have that
Jen, you're talking
dynamic
as
at
you're looking
Greenview.
at
Tennis courts.
the tennis courts. It's
the right.
that place to the right.
Yeah.
There's nothing there.
Right.
Between the
Right,
tennis
and it's
courts
right
Great
before-
idea.
I think that's great. Yeah,
I like that.
we should
That's-
definitely look into it.
I think we should look
Well,
into it.
Adam, when's the water tower coming down though?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know exactly.
Because that's going to be a huge
Piece of property.
empty space that doesn't have trees that we can then leverage right away.
Yes, you also are going to have a physical structure that has plumbing and other amenities that already exist.
We have.
So there's a lot of potential that exists at that end of the park, because there's a treatment, there's an area
Yeah,
there
but
that's used for
over
things
by
that could be
what
used
you
for other
said
things
about
moving forward.
Parking.
Okay.
I
Great
also
idea.
heard that 2 of the tennis courts are coming out?
We're looking at how many tennis courts are there and refurbishing them, hopefully, with appropriations in 2020. And I don't know if we need all of them. Perhaps we can make some of them really nice.
I'd like to see a pickleball court.
I was just going to say.
Pickleball is it's up and coming.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, I've heard that over the years, but I think that we definitely need to find a new location, and we should vet the Greenview Park area.
Yeah.
And the only other place that comes to mind is someplace in Washington Park where we talked about doing other things there that...
We have another field coming online across the parking lot from the ball fields currently, so it's going to see even more activity. And that's why, if that wasn't happening, that would be a spot.
Right.
But being that that's going to be a ball field for soccer and other sports like that, I don't know. Washington, I think, is challenged. But Greenview, agreed.
So my question is, can we proceed to have our engineer look at that spot?
Conversations are ongoing. I haven't talked to the engineer about it because we're paving all over the town right now. But I've talked to Mr. Coriel about it. I did talk to Mr. Seidman about it. So yeah, the process is beginning.
What would be the next step, I guess, is...
Getting it formally evaluated with recommendations on how to move forward with it. Because again, I don't want to have a situation where we do something that's too small and that doesn't attract the right attention. How much space do we have? Are there wetlands considerations, et cetera?
Does the council have to make any action at this point to investigate and move forward on something like that?
I mean,
I think it is.
The council is
Yeah.
in agreement with the approach.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Obviously, if someone comes forward with appropriation, then we don't need money. If we do need money, we need budget money, so that
Right.
we don't have that right now.
Unless somebody wants to go in the lake and take out all the stuff.
Who knows? Maybe we'll have a drought and the lake will go down.
There you go.
It's receding.
No, but I'm glad you
Slowly.
came-
It is
Just like
receding.
my hair.
I'm glad you came forward with it, because a lot
I
of
think that's a
people
good
have been
idea.
asking.
Yeah, and I have
for a
heard it
new
from a lot of
location.
people. They do want it.
And there is a Girl Scout that's interested in doing it as a gold project, so.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big
That would
project.
be good.
Okay.
And that's what it was last time, it was a gold
So
project.
you can get your updates bi-weekly or however you want from Adam over there.
Okay, I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay. At this time, we're going to move on to the next item, which is the manager's report. Mr. Brewer.
Thank you, Mayor Cole. Give me 1 second, I was shuffling papers. First item within my report, I just want to update the council. The township did execute a contract in the amount of $14,000 with H2M for permitting work updated on desnagging of the Pompton River. We're going to be proceeding with putting some bid docs together and going out to bid to accomplish that work. I know we've discussed it a lot over time. That's moving forward. With respect to fire hydrants, interesting question. There was some discussion among the staff. The fire hydrants that are new are red. There's been some conversations about, do we want to keep the blue and yellow? Do we want to go to red? If the council is comfortable, the staff's recommendation is to move toward red.
Red is good with me.
That is good.
Red works.
Dave, what do you think?
Oh, boy.
So if that,
From the firefighter's perspective, the yellow and blue is very easy to see, both at night and in snow.
Good point.
They want to ask the fire department what they think.
I remember when that was decided on.
Mr. Manager,
Red's
quick
good-
question.
Red's good with me.
At the end of Mountain, there's a last hydrant sign, but then there's 3 other hydrants after that. So are the 3 going up to the water tower out of use right now, or was that sign just never taken down?
They're not for fire, I don't think.
I just didn't.
Going up Mountain?
Right, if it was a different blue, maybe.
Might have some of that
former
now.
manager.
The sign needs to come down.
There you go.
Typically, if a fire hydrant's out of service, there's a tarp or a bag
Yeah,
or
it's
something put
covered.
over top of it, so that
Okay.
it's known to be out of service, so the fire hydrant doesn't show
So
up.
it just says last hydrant, so
That
get rid of that.
needs to be-
Thank you, sir,
That
from
needs
the
to be
audience.
updated. The municipal flood advocate provided a report, and congratulations is due to the township council as well as the township of Pequannock. The 2018 home elevation grant from FEMA was awarded.
All right.
Awarded, not funded. So be cognizant of that. There are 15 homes that were included in the 2018 application. The funding can take anywhere from a year to 18 months. As we know, we're currently working in town on the 15 and 16 grant targets. So, but it was good work. My compliments to Tetra Tech, who was the consultant, especially Ms. McCulloch, the township's flood advocate, and the committee and everybody involved. It was a good effort, and it's nice to see it moving forward.
Before the election.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get it all funded.
We're just running a little late.
On the sale of municipal property, previously by ordinance, the Township Council authorized the sale of Block 1802, Lot 41, which is a non-conforming lot that's approximately 15 feet by 100 feet on Hopper Avenue. There was no bids received.
Is there a reason why?
I believe that house is for sale right next to that, isn't it?
The subject property had two options: acquire the property and not need a variance from the Board of Adjustment, and they got a variance from the Board of Adjustment. So I suspect it was no longer necessary in terms of acquisition. I don't believe it's for sale. I don't know.
It's the,
The one across the street from that?
yeah,
Maybe
no,
across from the-
next door. So there's the side street, the house where there's property next to it, and then the next
Oh,
house
then
is
the
for
next
sale.
house, okay.
The old DiMaggino
Oh, okay.
house, that's the one that's for sale.
Additionally, as requested, reports from the Department of Parks and Recreation are included. They include the reports from January to date for the park ranger, as well as any water rescues or incidents.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Question, what do we do with this piece of property now that we just keep it the way it is?
Yes, sir.
Cut the grass.
Don't want to offer it to them for a lesser amount?
I'm not sure if they'd be interested at any price. I don't know. I haven't pursued that.
Okay.
And then a couple quick things that I don't have on my report. I just want to provide a paving update. As people see around town, we have a lot of paving going on. In addition to that, there's going to be paving of the boulevard by the county of Morris. So there's going to be a lot of black streets in about a month, which is good news, maintaining our infrastructure. There was an interesting, I don't want to say development, but an interesting eventuality. In the process of trying to pave Upper Mountain Avenue, we learned that they're putting, PSE&G is going to be installing a gas main. It was somewhat provident that we learned that before we paved it. We would not have learned it if it hadn't been brought to our attention by one of the residents up there. We ultimately sought confirmation. It was not on PS's list of projects for 2019. We did not have any foreknowledge of it. But we're going to wait a few months, maybe as long as a year, until the trench settles to finish paving the rest of it. But we're going to pave up to about 198-ish, I believe. And then the last thing is, Lori.
So I have a quick question. Moving forward with paving projects, is there a way we can reach out to them and
They're
notice?
supposed to notify
Yeah, they
us.
give us
They
a
didn't know
list.
that, right, and they were
We
not.
tell them what our plans are, they tell
Right.
us what their plans are, and it wasn't on their plans.
Okay. Whatever.
Not a perfect process.
Okay.
And lastly, Lori Tarnakursky, the township's tax collector, is retiring as of August 1st, so we wish Lori congratulations.
Congratulations.
She'll essentially be going on terminal leave on July 1st. The utilities collector, Evelyn Rusma, will be appointed as the acting tax collector. She has all the credentials and certifications. She recently returned to the township of Pequannock after a 6 or 8 year tenure before. So that will be something I will be preparing for the council's consideration, as her appointment requires a resolution of council if she's to be appointed permanently. So other than that, that is my complete report, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is public hearing, or there are no public hearings scheduled for this evening. And then the next is ordinance for introduction, and there are no ordinances for introduction. Next on the agenda is resolutions. Ms. Marsh.
Beginning with Resolution R 2019-133, authorizing Weatherproofing Technologies, Inc. to complete roof section C of the roof replacement project at the Department of Public Works Building, located at 99 Alexander Avenue, to the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey Cooperative Pricing System, which is formerly the Middlesex Regional Educational Services Commission. 2019-134, approving change order number 7 for the Mountain Avenue Water Storage Tank and Transmission Main Contract 2 project, increasing the contract with BM Construction of Hillside, New Jersey by $13,654.15 to a revised contract price of $2,383,629.30. R 2019-135, approving the renewal of the designated alcoholic beverage control licenses. 2019-136, authorizing tax office refunds, overpayments, or cancellations. 2019-137, approving payment of the itemized claims as set forth on the June 21st, 2019 bill list, and the June 21st, 2019, 2015, and 2016 FEMA elevation escrow lists.
Are there any comments on the resolutions from council?
I actually have a comment.
Good.
There is one ABC license that is not up for renewal.
I was just going to ask you, there's one that's missing.
I anticipated it. They did apply for an ad interim permit with the state, which will allow them to operate on 30, for 30 days, and then the council will have to act on their license once they get tax clearance.
Who's Ranch House?
That's Plaza 23 Diner.
Oh, that's the...
Who?
Plaza 23.
Oh, okay.
Any other comments? Is there a motion to adopt these resolutions?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolutions 2019-133 through 2019-137.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Yes. Next is items for discussion, and there are no items for discussions. Next is reports and notices. Is there any comment on the Pequannock Municipal Alliance Award of Supplemental Grant Funds? No?
No.
Next on the agenda is council reports and announcements. Councilwoman Florence Lynch.
Just a couple of quick things. I know Adam touched on most of what I was going to say under the Flood Advisory Committee, but just for everyone's reference, I guess we're finishing up the 2015 elevation grant right now. That's where there was the first 20 homes awarded, right, in that one. So that grant extension went until October 30th of 2020. I guess there was 26 homes in total on that one that were approved. And they managed to get additional funds to cover increased temporary housing and permit costs. So in that first elevation grant, there were 12 homes completed, 6 under, this was as of June 13th, 12 homes completed, 6 under construction, 2 plans in development, 2 homes seeking funding, and 4 homes that were withdrawn in writing from that first round. Then in the 2016 elevation grant is going on now. That extension is until August 30th, 2020. So that has 22 homes total in it. And 20 of those homes are active. 2 homes are completed, 10 under construction, 6 in development, and 2 seeking funding or for sale. And then 2 homes were unresponsive in that round. And then, of course, we just heard about the 2018 award for an additional 15 homes, so that's exciting. So it looks like, I wasn't sure if the number was 59 or 61. 61 initially got approved in total now, so.
I had 59 is the total.
Yeah, so when I
active
added
between
them
the
up.
3
Yeah,
years.
so, I mean, I think that's tremendous. We've made a lot of headway there, so thank you for that. What else? And then, and we were very glad to hear about the ditch cleanups cleanouts that are going on. I know everybody's working diligently to remove all the obstructions in the ditches, and now we're working with, collaboratively to move forward with that. And I guess we made some headway on the permitting process as well, right? There's been some discussions about making the, I'm trying to think what the word was, about helping to get some of the permits for the cleanouts and stuff. Wasn't there an issue with that?
Correct. The award of the contract, it didn't require council action, but to H2M and stuff did all that and get bid docs together.
Right, that's what the H2M was doing. Okay.
Yeah, we have the drainage project that was authorized at the past council meeting, as well as the work at DPW, so there's been significant efforts.
Okay, good. And the next Flood Advisory Committee meeting is July 11th, and I guess we're still waiting no word yet from FEMA on the map appeals, right? So,
We had Jennifer McCulloch and I had an opportunity to attend a meeting where there was a FEMA representative present, and we had that person inquire on our behalf. It was a person that hadn't previously been involved with the Township of Pequannock, and all applications for a scientific resolution panel are now being handled by headquarters.
oh, okay.
So, if you think of bureaucracy, the small bureaucracy that we are, and then there's the regional bureaucracy that FEMA is, and then there's the headquarters bureaucracy.
Right.
Unfortunately, I think they said sometimes once the request is made, it takes them up to a year to even grant it. So not good news for our residents that are sort of in that
Limbo.
gray area of not adopted, but preliminary map having an impact on them, but we're doing everything we can.
Can their banks contact them based on a preliminary map?
Banks can do whatever they want to satisfy their desire to give or not give money. That is the challenge.
Interesting. Okay.
That's a shame.
And then the Economic Development Committee, they're meeting tomorrow night. You're not meeting? They canceled. Oh, I didn't know if they canceled the meeting. I knew they canceled the guest speaker. I was going to say Eric from H2M was going to go to the Economic Development meeting tomorrow, but that's been moved to the August meeting, because there were going to be a lot of people at the Rotary installation dinner tomorrow night. So that's why he moved his meeting to August. He wasn't available in July. I didn't know if Economic was still meeting, though. So they've canceled the meeting?
I believe that was the last email that came out from Paul Sullivan.
Carol, could we get, I don't know, not that people usually go to the meeting, but, the public, but maybe we could
We can put something on the web.
put something on the door,
Yep.
and, because they usually meet in here, and maybe if you have time to put something on the website.
They meet in this room?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
They do. And the next, like I said, the next meeting will be the fourth Wednesday in July, and then Eric will come to the August meeting. He did give the committee a list of questions and items to go through for that presentation. So other than that, I was just going to say, I don't know if anyone's picked up their book yet, but the library is handing out the Walking to Listen book that they talked about at the last meeting, so everyone get their book. That's it.
Councilman Hurd.
Okay, just a couple quick things. Adam, any idea when we're getting those no vape signs yet?
I guess I won't say that now.
What's that?
No
No
vape?
vape signs. They've been ordered. They should be, we should either have them or have them very soon. And I know the group wants to do a photo op of them, and I've spoken with David Seidling about it, but I can get a specific date and get back to you.
I'm just wondering. The other question, so they have these fans. They would like to donate fans to, let's say, movie night, the ones that you hold in your hands and, cool yourself off with. And they have ones that they can design for pretty much anything to kind of coincide with the no vaping and no drugs and stuff like that. So who would we talk to about doing that?
Either Peter Coriel or Barb Malloy.
Is there a fee for the fans?
No, they're free. It's
Free
just
is for me, so,
a
yeah.
question of can we
Coordinate,
give them
sure.
out and coordinate for like a movie night or something?
It's
Perfect.
an activity of the coalition to benefit the community, just coordinate it with the staff.
Perfect. And then I got this letter, I don't know if everybody else, okay, so everybody got it. It's about parking over at Washington Park. And yeah, there is a problem. Not all the time. So for Little League, for most of the season, the games are spaced out enough, but there are a few instances that it's packed, it's jammed. And definitely, you're not going to be able to get EMS, and definitely not a fire truck down that lane. So
Little League has been notified, and they're supposed to be notifying the coaches, but the season's over, so.
the season's over, so yeah, so it's not going to be an issue until next year. But is there anything we can do? Is there like one side of the street parking we can do, or?
Certainly, the council has the option of changing the parking.
I believe in the past, we didn't want to change the parking because it affected the people that live there.
That's right.
I believe they put up the orange no parking signs during the baseball season on one side of the street, so it didn't affect the actual people that live there.
So who puts them up? Do you know? Is it Little League that puts it up, or?
Police department.
So for like every Saturday kind of a thing?
No, it's gonna have to go up for the season.
Okay.
They're not gonna take them up, put them up and take them down every game. They're gonna just,
In my experience, not in the township of Pequannock, but in other municipalities, the regulation of parking becomes a very sensitive subject. You oftentimes solve one problem and create
another,
problems.
yeah.
And you never, the people who are not upset about it don't arrive until you make a change, and then you end up with a lot of challenges. So I've
So the
actually...
best way is to deal with it some kind of
Yeah, the
temporary...
last time I had to do it, I actually sent out certified notices to the neighborhood and a survey and got responses back, and, you know, there were a few people that were in favor of it, and the majority of people were not.
Interesting.
I say we put the temporary no parking on one side of the street during baseball season, what is it, 2 months?
Yeah, it's
And let the police department know that if there's no games going on there and there's cars parked, we're fine with it.
Yeah.
But when there's baseball games there, it's only one side of the street.
And it's not all the
But
time.
you're talking about
It's just-
Jefferson, not Adam. Adam, I can see not being, but Jefferson's a very wide street. There's never been problems on Jefferson.
No, it's not really on Jefferson,
That's
because
what, but
most
that's what
of the
she's
time
saying.
it's on the
Normally
side.
Adam, I
Yeah,
can see
Adam.
that, but Jefferson is wide enough where,
And you know what, it's, as I'm
It all depends.
thinking, it's
where-
really the
where
end
on
of your
Jefferson.
party. That's really the big time. So the end of your celebration, that's when all the teams and
Well,
all the parents are there.
I think, and that
That's probably the
coincides
day.
with the carnival.
Oh, yeah, good point, yeah.
So that creates,
That creates a problem.
right.
Our 2 cents, that's all I got. Thank you.
I would ask Sergeant Lane how they handled it in the past. I believe they did handle it a couple, you know, with those temporary signs. Sure. And I would go the same way. We put up no parking signs, people down there are gonna go crazy. Councilman Phelan?
The only thing I have is that Company 2 had their wet down, I guess it was last Saturday, or the Saturday before. It was well attended, it was a lot of fun, and that's it.
All right. Councilwoman Russell?
I do not have anything to report today.
Okay, so thank you. I got a quick question. The river cleanup, are we concentrating on one stream, or is this going to be multiple streams? Because that little side stream on Jackson that we got a couple complaints on, are we trying to do anything with that?
The endeavor...
Talking about Myers Stream?
Is that what it's
Yeah.
called, Myers?
Myers Brook.
Yeah, Myers Brook.
Right over Jackson.
It used to flow. It doesn't even look like it flows
Yeah, there's
anymore.
all
There are a couple of areas
trees
that have been
down.
addressed that didn't flow that we've gotten moving. I don't know about Myers Brook specifically.
Okay.
The goal of the permitting process now is to take advantage of the grant monies that the township has and has had for a while, as well as get permitting from the entire limits of the municipality, so we can do this in a rolling fashion as opposed to in a shotgun approach. So I can get back to Mayor, you and the council on whether Myers Brook is going to be addressed or not, but
I think
as with respect to this
Melissa got the email, and I think she forwarded to you.
Yeah, it was
the
some downed
Myers.
trees right in that brook when you go down Jackson Avenue, you go right on the corner of Village and Jackson. There was,
And you said, I
for-
think if the
for a couple of years.
DPW could get it, they would get it without bringing
Yeah,
in
there's certain things
machinery.
they don't need
Right.
permits for.
so do you know if it's been addressed?
I can
drag it
Check?
out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can
thank
check.
you.
And the other thing is, we have two resolutions. One I received today, it's a resolution from Assemblyman Anthony Bucco. It's ACR 235, and he is asking us to adopt and circulate a similar resolution in support. And it says it's for the Morris County Historic Preservation Trust Fund grant and to sites listed on the state national register and historic. I guess he's asking for it to be able to allow the use of funds for historic preservation of religious institutions as part of the historic preservation program.
Right.
I think we should we all agree that we should
Yes,
approve
we do.
this?
I know that was a
Okay.
big
Didn't that go in
controversy
and get
years
shot
ago.
down or something?
It did, but I guess he's trying to change it, so.
He's trying to change it.
could.
Okay, yeah.
The other one we got from Michelle last week, it's Resolution Bill A5242, Responsible School Violence Preservation, Preparation, and Protection Program.
Yeah,
That's another one that I think that we should probably support.
yeah,
So,
we would support
Agreed.
that. Yep.
Carol, you got what you need. All right. And that's all I have. Next is public comment. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized. Come to the microphone, provide your name and address for the record. Seeing none? There are no minutes for approval this evening. Next on the agenda, we have items for closed session. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2019-138?
I'll make that motion.
Wait a minute. I'm getting a nudge.
Sorry, if I can just add, there was something that came up today that is very timely. I don't like to do this typically, but if I could add, under the contract negotiation exception, Board of Education tennis court usage as a fourth item for closed sessions.
Okay.
So is there a resolution at 2019-138 authorizing Township Council to meet in executive session, discuss contract negotiations with the City of Newark watering monitoring system and the matter of attorney-client privilege? Is there a motion? Mr. Phelan, I think you said that second?
I'll make that.
All right, roll call, or all in favor? Aye. Opposed? At this time, the public portion of the meeting is in closed session.